It's been a great morning. It's been a great inspirational day. And I thank Mr. So much for sharing his life's experience with us. And those children were wonderful and beautiful, and it's been a great day. I bring you greetings from my country, Somaliland. And because many people don't know where Somaliland is, I take the liberty to put the map of Somaliland on your screen so that you can tell the difference between former French Somaliland, la République de Djibouti, l'ancienne colonie de France, la côte française des Somalies, la Somalia Italiana, that you all know about, thanks to Captain Phillips and Black Hawk Down, and the Republic of Somaliland, which is former British Somaliland Protectorate. I come from a country which is not on your map, but I also come from a country that brings greetings to the indigenous tribes, past and present, of your great country, and the greetings of people in Somaliland who have known all kinds of atrocities. And if somebody shows me how to move this, I will try to move it forward, and I fail. I need help. I'm 81, I'm from the pencil generation, so please be patient with me. Oh, it has. The magic.
All good?
Yes, how do I do it?
That one.
Oh, that one, the green one.
Means go. Yeah.
Green means go. There we are. I was pushing the wrong button. I show you this picture because people hear so much about Africa, and they hear about droughts and famine, which we have, poverty, which we have, disease, which there is. But there was a time when there was pomp and pageantry, and the picture that you see on the screen is in the West Lawn of the White House in Washington, D.C., when my husband was Prime Minister, and we were graciously hosted by President Johnson and Lady Bird. We were flown in on Air Force One, flew in on the presidential helicopter to the West Lawn, 21-gun salute, pomp and pageantry. Banquets, gowns, beautiful, a trousseau, I would say, made for me, took a month. But then all good things come to an end. We had a war. Because when Somaliland became independent in 1960, and was the 12th country to become independent in Somalia, in Africa, we united with neighboring Somalia. Like many partnerships, many unions, some work, some don't. Some prosper, some fail. Sadly, our union with our neighbors, Somalia, failed and ended up in a 12-year civil war where the military used bombs and cannons and all kinds of atrocities. That is a hospital you see on your screen. Now, who bombs hospitals and schools and homes and civilian dwellings? That's what the country was littered with. Tanks and military hardware, MiGs and unexploded ordnances. What do tanks do? That's what happens. That civil war killed 250,000 of our people. 1/10 of the population of my country, former British Somaliland Protectorate, were killed in that war. Many of those remains that you see on the screen belong to children. Now, who puts the remains of children in a mass grave? What is the military value of killing children and civilians? Somebody must have felt very brave to do that. Those victims died because they called themselves by their rightful name, Somalilanders. And there were 27 mass graves catalogued by the United Nations. Now, when this was happening, I was a very senior WHO diplomat in comfort, in safety. But I heard every time I had news from my country that people had been taken out of their homes in the middle of the night to be massacred, to be shot, to be executed. It hurt to know that there were children being taken out of schools to be used as mobile blood banks. And soldiers would just go to a classroom and get all the kids to stand up and pick on them, you, out, and just take them out and bleed them to death and throw their carcass onto a pile of other bodies. Nobody should do that to another human being. But it happened. The thing is, we cannot bring those bodies back. But we can work together to make sure that that kind of thing never happens to anybody ever again. We work together so that we give the living the potential to grow, to learn, and to become useful citizens who will protect and promote and respect life, not take it away, not abuse it, not destroy it, but to nurture it. And when I retired, some 21 years ago, I had been there. I have been a diplomat. I have been a political prisoner. I've spent my 38th birthday in jail because my family wanted to celebrate my birthday in our village, and we were arrested because we were accused, following very, very reliable information, that we were plotting to escape from the country. Forgetting that a month before that, I had flown back from Italy on a first-class ticket. So if I were to escape, that would have been the right time to do it. But somebody had reliable information that that was what we were plotting to do. And when I spent 9 days in that jail, in solitary confinement, I was sent to do my military service at age 38. 4 months of boot camp, simply because I was a former First Lady. I'm someone who calls round, round, and square, square. I was an anti-revolutionary. I was an imperialist stooge. I was a capitalist pig. Therefore, military camp, boot camp. I did 4 months of that, and I assure you it was the best physical exercise I ever had. That was my life. I had gowns, I had jewelry, I had power, I had prestige. I had been up there, and I had also been down there. So when I retired, and my country had been destroyed to that level, what do? I can just sit back and think about the things I had, worry about what am I going to do? Where's the next bridge game? Or which park do I go to and feed the pigeons and feed breadcrumbs to the ducks on the pond, or go home? And that's what I did. I recycled my life. I just recycled everything I had into cold cash and went back to Somaliland. Went back to Somaliland because there were no health workers. There was nothing. There was no food. There was no water. There was no government. No sanitation. None of the things that existed before the war were there. So I went back. Of course, no education. Children were being taught on sand because there was no paper, there were no pencils. taught to read and count on sand, count with pebbles. Children were asked to bring 10 pebbles to school so they could be shown how to do multiplications and subtractions, how to add and how to subtract. Not on an iPad, not on paper. They had no pencils, on sand. And of course, disease. And who suffers the most? The weakest, the women, the children. Who delivers women when there are no health professionals? They become subject of discrimination because whatever is available in that community goes to the strongest, not to the weakest. Women get pushed aside. Pregnant ones pushed aside even further. Maternal mortality of the Somali woman became 1,600 per 100,000 live births. The maternal mortality rate of my country was worse than Afghanistan, was worse than Lesotho, was worse than Papua New Guinea. And of course, hunger, malnutrition. Women had the most, they say, the most difficult thing that could happen to a woman in my country was to become pregnant. That moment of joy for everyone, where everybody celebrates when a woman becomes pregnant, was a source of danger to that woman in my country. So since I was a midwife, and I had been delivering babies all my life, I had been training midwives all my life, this is what I would do. I would go home, and I'd build a hospital for women. And this picture is one of the umbilical cords that dragged me back to my country. A hospital that once carried the name of my father. This is what it turned out to become after the war. And the only healthy, clean, living thing there was a goat. And I felt that I could do a better job than the goat for the sick. So it was either her or me to look after the sick. That took me home. And it took me home with good intentions, and I was going to build a hospital, and I was going to look after women, but where? So I went to my former husband, who was the president of Somaliland at the time, and I said, I'm retiring, and I'm back, and I want to build a hospital. And he said, what? A hospital? Yeah, hospital. What's with you and hospitals? You're retiring and you want to build a hospital? Haven't you had enough of hospitals all your life? And I said, hospitals? No, that's what I was trained to do, but do you like being the president of a country that has no maternity hospital? Because if you had maternity hospitals, then I could retire and I wouldn't need to build one for you. But be grateful that there is a crazy woman who wants to build one for you. But you're not young anymore. You're old. You're retired, and you want to build a hospital. How can you do that? Well, you give me the land, and let's find out. So I was given land on a once killing ground, once execution ground, a trash dump. The government had to bulldoze that land and cart away 32 truckloads of trash from it. And I started to build, and build, and build, and build for 4 years. My office was the shade of a tree. And for 4 years, I was there for every brick that was laid, every wall that was plastered, every foundation that was dug, because my resources were limited and I needed to make sure that it gave me the biggest bang for my buck. And it was the most educational experience for me. It was an education to learn all about steel and concrete and the depth of foundations and the content of a brick. For me, a brick was a brick. How much sand goes into it? How many pebbles are put in? What size pebbles go into it? How much water goes into it? How is it matured? How is it dried in the sun? How is it watered? How is it prepared to become a brick that can be used for a wall? It was an extremely educational experience. But 4 years later, we built it. And 8 months before it was finished, I moved into it. I had one door on my bedroom. It was the only door. And for 8 months, I was the only person living there in the skeleton of the hospital. I could not afford to live anywhere else. And I still live there. And I still live, that window's mine, that's where I live. And the ward below me is the pediatric ward. So at night I hear a child crying, and I call down, I say, what are you doing to this child? This child's been crying for 10 minutes. And I say, yeah, but we're trying to draw blood. I say, you're trying to kill this kid. Calm it down. Calm it down. Give it love. Give it affection. Let it calm down. And I love coming to your countries. I love traveling. I love meeting great people in every corner of the world. But that's my home. A once killing ground, a former trash dump, living above the pediatric ward of my hospital. It's a symbol of determination that I want the world to learn from, and I want the next generation to learn from. I want the people of my country, and in every country in the world, to know that you can do something out of anything, even on a trash dump. And then, of course, when the construction was going up, I would say, no. I'm a chronic planner, by the way. I say, well, what's going to happen? How am I going to deal with that? Who would work in this hospital when it would eventually become finished? We had no nurses. Those we had trained before had either been killed, fled the country, found other jobs. The country had 32 doctors, a country that is as big as England and Wales combined. 4 million people, 32 doctors. Where do they work? Where do they perform? Where do they treat? We had about 11 trained midwives, a country of 4 million. So I started training my own. And we would bribe the carpenter and say, look, between this time and that time, please don't bang, bang. Just, work on the other end of the building, because we want to give a lecture. We're talking, we're teaching, we're training, we're demonstrating. And in that time, I had wonderful, wonderful volunteers who came and worked with me, people who prayed for me, people who donated things to me. By the way, the top floor, all the steel that went into the top floor of the building was donated by one merchant in Somaliland. People gave me their tipper trucks to use. People gave me sand, gave me bags of cement, gave me their time, gave me their skills. The engineer was building the hospital for me. I wasn't paying him. I was not even giving him a cup of tea. And eventually, when the hospital was finished, I had great volunteers, and two of them are sitting in the audience here today, Dr. Paula Kitto and Dr. Judy Thompson, both Australians, one from the West and one from here, people who've worked with me over the years. Time and time again, they fly out. I don't pay them. I don't buy them a ticket. They fly out, train my midwives, train my junior doctors, show us how to do things better. We have the Australian Doctors for Africa who come once or twice a year out of Perth. We've had all my first beds were donated by Britain. My first baby cots were donated by Britain. My first single ambulance was donated by UNHCR. My well, the water well, that from where we draw 2 tankers of water a day, was donated by France. Et vive la France, if there's any French people in the audience. Because when I was given the Legion of Honor by President Sarkozy, there was a gift with it. And that was my gift. And it became the most valuable gift that I have ever had. Water is life. A hospital that had no water could not have been a hospital. And it's because the people of France gave me that well, gave me that borehole, dug it for me, that I have water today. So it was the world that helped me build that hospital, and the world that helps me run it. Yes, I come from a country that we don't have a mammograph. We see patients who come with a fulminating cauliflower breast, but we're not able to screen and to catch the early tumors in the breast. I don't have histopathology. We see a bump, we take a biopsy, and we send it out to Kenya or Uganda or Ethiopia. Sometimes the biopsy gets lost. Sometimes the biopsies get mixed up. We're not able to analyze. We're not able to stain. We're not able to slice the biopsy to identify what is causing this lump. Is it malignant? Is it benign? We don't have that. But we have a country where the people are resilient. And instead of saying, we've been bruised, we've been beaten, we've been massacred, we'll just lay down and die, we picked ourselves up and moved on. And that hospital, built by a crazy old woman like me, built on a trash dump, we've delivered 32,000 babies on that site. Most of them because they were complicated. Most of them because there were mothers who were referred. Most of them because the mother had a very difficult delivery or pregnancy, or somebody found that the baby was lying sideways, was too big, mother had high blood pressure. Some reason brought that woman. Mainly because they were poor. They smelled bad, nobody wanted them. So they sent them to me. And I feel blessed that I can help that woman that nobody wants. Because that's the kind of woman I built the hospital for. We've had so much surgery. Surgery, not only cesarean sections or amputations or bumps and lumps. Surgery that is complicated, like inserting a shunt in the head of children who have hydrocephalus. They come from anywhere in the Horn of Africa, from Somalia, from anywhere in Somaliland, from Djibouti, from Somali region of Ethiopia, and they come to Somaliland, and they come to our little hospital where female surgeons, Somaliland female surgeons, can insert a shunt that had been donated by the manufacturers of those shunts. And we've operated on over 400 patients, 400 children with hydrocephaly, and just as many with spina bifida on a site that was a trash dump. We have, in those 21 years, treated hundreds and thousands of patients in the outpatients. We've served many communities in the outskirts. We have outreach program, and for the first time, I'm also fulfilling my ambition to have a school health program, because we have over 400,000 children attending schools in Somaliland, far more than we've ever had in the history of my country. We have, when Somaliland is not even on your map, we've had over 321 volunteers who've come and worked with us over the years, and a good number of them were from Australia. They come from anywhere in the world. We have an internship program with Harvard University, University of Pennsylvania that has awarded me an honorary PhD. They come from Britain. They come from King's College Hospital, which was my referral hospital when I was in training there. University of the South Bank in London awarded me an honorary PhD. It's the world that is helping me carry and run that hospital. And during those years, I taught, I traveled, I fought, I cried. But most of all, I have been so happy and grateful that I could change the lives of many of our women and many of our people. And if I could work this, I would find out where the pointer is, and I cannot. But sitting in the front row, which one? That one. No. I want to go back. Okay, now the pointer. The red one. No. Okay, forget it. I'll have to come back for another reincarnation to learn that. I can only build hospitals. Second from the front row, to the right. No, 1, 2, 3, 4. Fourth in the front row. That was a young girl I almost kicked out of the training school because she was too small, she was too young. And out of the 306 applicants who wanted to become nurses and who sat for an entrance exam, we took 40. And among those 40, there was a little girl. And I said, oh my God, examination committee, who's that kid sitting in the third row in the red dress? She's too young. What's she doing here? I said, well, she's one of the successful applicants. I said, she's too young. Let her come back in 3 or 4 years' time. I can't teach her anything. She's too young. Let her grow up. I said, too late, because the list is out on the wall. And her name is out there. We cannot remove it. So, that girl today is taller than I am, excelled in her nursing training, went on to become a midwife, excelled in her midwifery, graduated top of the class. I sponsored her and another one through medical school. She graduated second from that class in medical school. That girl I almost kicked out. Sometimes, it's good to be wrong. She is the one who inserts shunts. She is the one who has saved so many children. I'm still a midwife. She is now a surgeon. And the second one has a back turned. The second student I sponsored through medical school was trained by Dr. Paula Kitto in obstetrics, emergency obstetrics, and neonatal care. And she is now running the course that Dr. Paula Kitto was running for us in the past. Kids, young girls, who taught themselves to read and write on sand, in a country where education for girls was not advisable, one is an obstetrician, and one is a surgeon. That's what life is all about. And instead of goats, we have trained nurses looking after the sick. I don't think a goat could have done that, could have looked after that sick child. That's what it's all about. And then came my second biggest ambition, to train 1,000 midwives for my country, Somaliland. And everybody thought, what? 1,000 midwives? How can you do that? Well, we'll train as many as we can, because we need to cover this country with trained midwives. Women are being delivered by grandmothers and neighbors. Women are coming to us because a woman has a shoulder presentation and an arm prolapse, and the only person in the village who can help this woman is her 9-year-old daughter. And when the arm comes out, the mother says, pull. And when the child's lying sideways, and you pull on the shoulder, on the arm, pull harder, pull, the arm comes off. Now, you cannot have 9-year-old children delivering their mother. You cannot have half-blind grandmothers who don't know anything about hygiene delivering women. You cannot have women going through pregnancy and going through eclampsia and convulsions and have neighbors say, oh, there's an evil spirit there. We've got to beat the spirit out of her and burn her and cauterize her. We need trained people. So we've got to train midwives. We don't have enough doctors to treat these women. Doctors take too long. Doctors need hospitals. Doctors need support equipment. Midwives are mobile. Midwives can do 60, 70% of what that pregnant woman needs can be done by a midwife who's well trained. And she can also do the triage and say, this woman needs to be referred. She needs to go somewhere where she needs better care than I can give her in this village. She will send that woman sooner. She will arrange for a referral, for transportation. So we embarked on training midwives, embarked on my 1,000 midwife campaign. And we trained, and we trained, and we trained. And today, Somaliland has 7 midwifery schools. And wait for it, last year, we reached a goal of 1,008 midwives trained in Somaliland. Today, we have to raise the bar, keep training, and of course, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree. 17, 18 years later, we don't discriminate against men. It's become a general hospital. We also have a lot of surgery. As a woman who was born with bilateral cleft lips, operated. These are the children we treat. You see all the scars, all the burns on the forehead. That's what we do. Look at that child with teeth. That operation should have been done when that child was a few months old. Where? How? And we do a lot of trauma, a lot of burns. And for me, that is the most beautiful smile. And the message I want to leave with you today is that there's so much that needs to be done in this world. And everything we do has that cumulative effect on changing this little world of ours. And it's the people like Mr. So, and it's those midwives who later become doctors, who change the world. And it's people who have a determination to do whatever they can with whatever they have. And if Somaliland can do it, anybody can do it. I thank you for this opportunity, and I thank you for your welcome, and I thank the great people of your country